What's that? I don't know.
All right, listen up. This isn't your typical Bigfoot story. We're diving into trail cam footage so creepy, it's leaving even the hardcore skeptics scratching their heads. Captured deep in remote forests, far from civilization, these clips might just be the proof everyone's been waiting for. From massive footprints to something lurking just out of frame, we're breaking down every eerie detail, frame by frame. And trust me, by the end of this video, you'll be questioning everything. Let's get into it.
The face is here at first, but no.
The Sasquatch Outpost YouTube channel is more than just a platform for sharing stories. It's a space designed to inspire curiosity, foster learning, and immerse viewers in the enduring mystery of the forest people. Known around the world as Bigfoot or Sasquatch, rooted in 9 years of intensive field research, particularly throughout the Colorado Rockies, the Outpost has gathered countless first-hand experiences, shared in a way that sparks the imagination while remaining grounded in real encounters. One of the channel's most remarkable investigations takes viewers to a remote lake island situated 50 miles northwest of Temagami in Ontario, Canada. The year was October 2007, and it would become the site of an event that remains significant to this day. Researchers Ben Mateen and his team had been working in the area documenting unusual activity. After briefly leaving the location to retrieve more supplies, they returned to find something completely unexpected. As the team approached the spot where they had previously been, Jim Jardineau, one of the investigators, suddenly noticed something out of place. He shouted at Ben to grab the video camera, urging him to start filming immediately. What they captured was astonishing. There, standing motionless at the edge of the trees, was a large black figure, something that had not been present when they left the area earlier. The figure's sudden appearance was deeply unsettling, as if it had been watching and waiting. As Jim pulled back the camera for a wider view, something even more remarkable occurred. The creature subtly changed its position, shifting as though it was aware of being watched. The team estimated the being stood at least 8 feet tall, towering over its surroundings. Descriptions of its appearance were highly detailed. Its fur was a mix of yellowish tones on top, blending into silver, red, brown, and snowy gray hairs across its massive frame. The combination of colors created a pattern that helped it blend seamlessly into the forest, a natural camouflage that might explain why it's so rarely seen in the wild. But perhaps the most chilling moment of the entire encounter was caught just minutes later. In a creepy and unsettling piece of footage, the camera captured the Bigfoot peeking out from behind a tree. Its expression, as it observed the researchers, was described as deeply unnerving, its gaze intense and intelligent, as if it was carefully analyzing their every move. There was something about the way it watched them that sent shivers down the spines of everyone present. The combination of stealth, awareness, and sheer size made it clear that this was no ordinary animal. The Sasquatch Outpost continues to share encounters like these, blending authentic field research with a passion for uncovering the truth about these elusive forest people. With each video, they offer viewers a closer glimpse into a world that few dare to explore, pushing the boundaries of what we understand about the wilderness and what might still be hiding there.
Hey fam, ready for nightmares? Check out Knock Knock for the scariest, most bone-chilling encounters caught on camera. Link in the description. If you dare.
Sooner Sasquatch is a YouTube channel created by Chris Dickinson, who's better known in the Bigfoot community as Sooner Sasquatch. Chris is based in Oklahoma and has dedicated his life to uncovering the truth about the mysterious Sasquatch people. His mission is clear: to expose the reality that many of us were told never existed. "We've been lied to our entire lives," Chris often says. "They told us there are no monsters in the woods. But I'm here to tell you there are. I've seen them, and so have many others."
Sorry guys, I'm just sitting here listening for a second. I just finished doing a live video, walking in here. I'm just off of Bigfoot Creek, which is right back.
On one particular outing, Chris ventured back into an area he calls Bigfoot Creek, a place already known for its strange happenings. But this time, things escalated.
I heard something over there, so I left it alone. I was gonna see if maybe it would follow me over here. I don't think it did.
Chris found himself getting too close to something, and what followed was an intense, unsettling experience. As Chris stood quietly in the thick Oklahoma woods, he began picking up on faint noises coming from deep in the brush behind him.
I was getting some noises from back over here. I just stepped on a jackrabbit too. I mean, almost stepped on him. He waited till the last second to move and he jumped, scared the crap out of me.
At first, it was subtle. Then suddenly a jackrabbit bolted from the undergrowth at his feet. Chris nearly stepped on it, and the little creature waited until the last second to move. The sudden jump gave Chris a scare, but what came next was even more puzzling.
I've had a lot of stuff happen in here.
He stumbled upon what he described as a little jungle gym, a tangled structure of sticks and branches. Chris wasn't sure if it was built by the creatures he was searching for, but it certainly had the look of something unnatural. "Looks like something they do," he remarked, referring to the kind of structures often reported by Bigfoot researchers. But it wasn't just odd constructions catching his attention. Chris also noticed something strange in the shadows nearby. Just right of center screen, close to the play button on his footage at 2:19, there appeared to be a face peeking through the darkness. It was subtle but distinct. Chris thought it resembled a female face. Adding to the mystery, one of the branches right near the face was moving up and down, yet nothing else in the area was shifting. The stillness of the surrounding foliage made this isolated movement even more suspicious. "Yeah?" Chris whispered to himself, unsure if he was really seeing what he thought he was seeing. Later in the investigation, Chris spotted something he couldn't quite explain. "I thought I saw something up here," he said, describing what looked like a head peeking over a log at around 1420.
My good phone that records the better video it's shattered. I gotta get the screen fixed. I thought I saw something up here. Looked like a head peeking up over a log, but I couldn't zoom in on it.
But as he tried to zoom in, he lost the shot. After reviewing it, he reasoned it might have just been part of the log. But even he wasn't convinced. "I think it's just a piece of a log," Chris muttered, though his tone betrayed some lingering doubt. As the evening wore on, the tension only increased. Chris began hearing stick breaks behind him, and then again to his right.
No, I think it's just a piece of a log.
"It's like all around me now," he said, realizing he might have ventured too far into their territory. The woods grew eerily quiet. Except for one thing. Off in the distance, Chris picked up on something that sounded like a voice. At first it was faint, but then it became clearer. This very desert sound, like a voice over there, Chris noted, his voice low and cautious. And then he heard it, something that sounded like a little kid's voice.
Ooh. That's weird.
But the most chilling part came at 21:35, when Chris captured what sounded like words, faint but distinct, "Stay right there."
That's weird. I just heard it sound like a voice over there.
It wasn't just the words that sent a shiver down his spine. It was the fact that in the exact same moment there was a visual ripple across the screen. Chris later pointed out that if you slow the footage down to 0.75 speed, you can hear and see it more clearly. And right after the sound, Chris said exactly what was on his mind. "I swear I heard a voice."
There's a stick break back there and over there.
Whether it's Sasquatch, a lost tribe, or something we don't yet understand, Chris believes the truth is hidden deep within these forests, and he's determined to find it. Bigfoot of the Rockies Outdoor Adventures is a YouTube channel dedicated to the great outdoors, blending content about fishing, hunting, hiking, and ATV riding with thrilling investigations into the supernatural. From Bigfoot encounters to UFO sightings, this channel takes viewers deep into the heart of the Colorado Rockies, where mysterious creatures are said to roam. One of the most compelling investigations came during Bigfoot Adventure Weekend, BAW 2022 in Bailey, Colorado. The event was filled with laughter, camaraderie, and high mountain adventures, but what made it unforgettable was a 3-hour-long encounter with what could only be described as Bigfoot.
I was trying to film you guys backwards and hit a stump. My camera's on my chest. Almost took a digger.
As night fell, the team retired to their tents after a long day of exploring. Around midnight, one of the team members had a recorder running, capturing sounds of the forest as the group settled in. An hour to an hour and a half later, something violent happened. A sudden, forceful shake rattled the tent. It wasn't just a small disturbance, it was as if something deliberately grabbed hold and shook it with intention. Initially, the team member dismissed it as an animal, perhaps a deer that had accidentally tripped on one of the guy wires securing the rainfly. The wire, however, was tied to a tree 14 inches off the ground, making it unlikely that a passing animal had merely brushed against it. Was it a Bigfoot? If so, what had caused the tent shake? Had they just experienced direct interaction with one of the elusive creatures?
Nice. Just figured give you guys a little bit of breather here and then we'll keep going on. We'll kind of get over there where the canyon narrows a little bit.
Instead of attempting to sneak up on the creatures, the lead investigator instructed the team to laugh and speak loudly, a technique based on years of experience. Whispering and trying to deceive Bigfoot, he found, was often counterproductive. These creatures were intelligent and cautious, and any attempt to be stealthy could be perceived as threatening. By acting naturally and keeping their presence obvious, the team aimed to encourage curiosity rather than fear, hoping that Bigfoot might approach them on its own terms.
Yeah, we got to get closer to where that water we can. She can hear it flow.
There you go.
Oh my God. Me up. Oh, James.
It's just like you left your faucet on.
As the team continued their search, they came across a mysterious presence in the woods. The moment was intense. Was it a Bigfoot or just an illusion created by the dense forest? One team member attempted to adjust the camera's settings, struggling with the autofocus and zoom functions in the darkness. The infrared IR settings on the device fluctuated, distorting the image and adding an eerie glow to the screen. The tension grew as the team tried to capture clear footage of whatever was lurking beyond the trees. With cameras rolling, the team directed their attention toward the mysterious figure they had detected. It was barely visible, blending seamlessly into the landscape. Holding up the camera, one investigator tried to stabilize the view, while another attempted communication.
There's a couple flashes.
There we go. There we go.
I'm saying this is I don't think it's moved.
How big were they or what?
"Can you hear us?" one of them asked, holding the camera steady. As they focused their attention on the dark figure, they made a bold request. "If you can understand us, raise your left hand." The atmosphere grew tense. The anticipation was palpable. Would the entity respond? But instead of an answer, the silence deepened. Whatever they were watching, it was watching them too.
Gonna do another female whoop in 5, 4,
5, Roger.
3, 2, 1, go.
Well done.
Was the tent shake a warning or a test of curiosity? Did Art truly see a Bigfoot standing near his tent? What was caught on camera that night? An animal, a shadow, or something more? For those intrigued by the mysteries of Bigfoot, the Bigfoot of the Rockies Outdoor Adventures YouTube channel continues to document their search for the truth. What do you think? Was this an encounter with Bigfoot, or is there another explanation? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. The Rocky Mountain Sasquatch YouTube channel is dedicated to uncovering the mysteries of Bigfoot, focusing on the dense forests of the Rocky Mountains and the Pacific Northwest. With years of reported encounters and mounting evidence, the team behind the channel believes that the discovery of Sasquatch is imminent. They document their findings with in-depth analysis, real-time investigations, and historical accounts, bringing their audience as close as possible to the truth.
British Columbia Bigfoot captured on video during a snowstorm. Peter Gladstone captured footage of what appears to be a Sasquatch.
One of the most compelling pieces of evidence featured on the channel comes from British Columbia, where Peter Gladstone managed to capture an alleged Bigfoot on camera during a snowstorm. For months, Peter had been experiencing strange occurrences near his home, situated on an isolated Indian reserve. He claimed that a dark-colored figure had been lurking in the trees, watching him from a distance. Though he had never been able to get a clear look, its presence was undeniable. Then, on February 1st, around 5 p.m., during a heavy snowstorm, Peter finally recorded the mysterious being moving through the trees. The conditions were far from ideal, visibility was low, and the snow was relentless. But even through the haze, the dark figure stood out.
On an isolated Indian reserve in British Columbia, he has had a dark-colored Bigfoot observing them from cover in his backyard.
Determined to analyze the footage, the Rocky Mountain Sasquatch team enhanced the lighting, enlarged the video by 200%, and stabilized the image. What they found was chilling. The figure appeared large, humanoid, and covered in dark fur, moving with a level of stealth and purpose that suggested it wasn't an ordinary animal.
Off and on for several months, leading up to this day, and he finally got it on camera, February 1st, around 5 p.m., during a snowstorm.
British Columbia has long been a hotspot for Sasquatch activity, with numerous reports of sightings and unexplained footprints. During a separate search and rescue mission, responders stumbled upon several massive, human-like tracks in the snow. These footprints were far too large to belong to a human and displayed a unique shape and depth that suggested they belonged to something with immense weight and size. This discovery adds to a growing body of evidence that British Columbia's wilderness may be home to an undiscovered species. Over the years, locals, hikers, and even experienced hunters have reported encounters with towering, bipedal creatures, reinforcing the idea that something unknown is roaming the province's remote regions.
5 months ago, during a search for a missing person along the Fraser River in British Columbia, rescuers discovered several large Bigfoot-shaped tracks.
But modern-day encounters aren't the only proof that British Columbia holds a deep connection to Sasquatch. Some of the most famous abduction cases in Bigfoot lore took place in these very lands. One of the most legendary cases involves gold prospector Albert Ostman, who claimed to have been kidnapped by a family of Sasquatch in the 1920s.
While filming the subject, and he did not say a word. I am sure the reason he was able to get an amazing 2.5 minutes of footage.
According to Ostman, he was dragged deep into the mountains and held there for several days, forced to observe the creatures up close. His descriptions of their behavior, communication, and physical features were unlike anything documented before. What makes his story even more intriguing is that Ostman later passed a lie detector test and was thoroughly interrogated by Canadian Mounties, who determined that he truly believed his experience was real. Another startling case comes from First Nations trapper Mallet Harry, who also claimed to have been abducted by a Sasquatch. After managing to escape from the creature's grasp, he was interviewed by a missionary who knew him well. The missionary, familiar with Harry's honesty and character, was convinced he was telling the truth about his terrifying ordeal. These historical accounts, along with modern sightings and physical evidence, continue to build the case that Bigfoot is more than just folklore. It may be a living, breathing species that has managed to evade human detection for centuries. With every new discovery, Rocky Mountain Sasquatch brings us one step closer to uncovering the truth about these elusive beings. Whether through modern encounters, chilling evidence, or legendary tales, the search for Bigfoot continues, pushing further into the unknown. The Bigfoot's Testimony YouTube channel, with over 302K subscribers and nearly 300 videos, is dedicated to documenting chilling, unexplained encounters deep within the wilderness. With each upload, the channel presents compelling evidence, eerie investigations, and first-hand footage that bring viewers closer to the mysteries hidden in the forests. One of the most unnerving videos on the channel, titled "Something Creeping in the Tree Line," was uploaded on January 12, 2023. It follows a lone individual who, while filming in an isolated forest, begins to feel a disturbing presence lurking nearby. At first, there is nothing visibly wrong, but the air feels different, as if something is watching from the darkness.
Oh yeah, right there, look.
Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Where'd it go?
The camera slowly pans across the dense tree line. The towering trunks, thick undergrowth, and stillness of the forest create an unsettling atmosphere. Nothing moves. No animals are heard. Just an eerie, unnatural silence. Then there's a shift. Something stirs, just out of sight. The camera moves back and forth, scanning the tree line. A feeling of unease grips the man behind the camera. It's the kind of instinctual fear that creeps up your spine when you know you're not alone. The viewer can sense it too. Something is there, but whatever it is, it refuses to reveal itself, lurking just beyond visibility, hidden in the shadows. Suddenly, the man makes a bold decision. Instead of retreating, he moves closer.
Oh yeah, right there, look.
His breath quickens, and the camera shakes slightly as he rushes forward, trying to capture whatever is hiding in the trees. The lens sweeps through the thick foliage again. For a moment, it seems as if there's nothing there, just empty woods. And then, it appears. A jet-black, hairy figure emerges from the shadows, walking upright through the tree line. It moves naturally, yet there's something deeply unsettling about its posture, its deliberate pace. It doesn't resemble a bear or any known forest animal. The moment is brief but chilling. The camera struggles to focus as the man tries to process what he's seeing. The figure doesn't charge, doesn't flee. It just moves calmly, deliberately, as if it knows it has been seen. Then, just as quickly as it appeared, it begins to fade back into the shadows. Shaking, the man zooms in, trying to get a better look at the creature. This is no illusion. With the zoomed-in frame, its features become clearer. Thick black hair covers its entire body. Its arms swing with a natural rhythm, and its stride is unmistakably human-like. Its upper body is massive, built with a broad muscular structure that suggests tremendous strength. For a few tense seconds, the camera captures it with undeniable clarity. This is not a misidentification. This is something real, and then it vanishes. The forest returns to its unsettling stillness. Whatever was there is gone. But the man and the viewers are left with one question. What did he just witness? Was this proof of Bigfoot? Did the creature know it was being watched, or was this just an accidental glimpse into something unknown? And most importantly, if it was real, where did it go? The footage remains one of the most compelling encounters uploaded to Bigfoot's testimony, a video that brings its audience face to face with the unknown and challenges them to believe or doubt what they just saw. What do you think? Did this video capture actual evidence of Bigfoot, or is there another explanation? Let us know in the comments. Sasquatch Omega is a YouTube channel run by an experienced field investigator who explores various regions of the United States in search of evidence of Sasquatch or Bigfoot. After having several personal encounters and discovering hundreds of tracks, intricate structures, and other signs believed to be created by these elusive beings, he has no doubt that Sasquatch exists. His channel serves as a detailed archive of these findings, offering fellow researchers and curious viewers a rare glimpse into the field. While there may be periods without new uploads, Sasquatch Omega is committed to sharing everything he encounters.
This is April 10th, 2017. I've come up a canyon. The road's closed, so I went beyond the barrier, and I found this set of tracks.
One of his most extraordinary investigations features an incredible encounter with a unique Sasquatch trackway, an event he believes may be the first of its kind ever caught on video. While many researchers have long suspected that Sasquatch build structures, this footage directly connects the creature to the construction of these formations, bringing solid visual evidence to a theory that has circulated in the Bigfoot community for years. The event took place on April 10, 2017. Sasquatch Omega had ventured deep into a canyon where the road had been closed off. Choosing to explore beyond the barrier, he discovered a set of massive footprints leading up a steep hillside.
And here's a set of footprints that are already in the snow from when I got here. Now, it snowed here.
Despite the camera making the incline appear gentler than it actually was, the climb was steep and strenuous. Alongside his own trail of footprints, he found another set, large, distinct tracks already embedded in the snow before he even arrived. The snow had fallen just 2 days earlier, making it clear that the tracks were fresh, likely made within the last 36 hours.
On the left is my set of tracks, and I just walked the best I could. It's fairly steep. It doesn't look it from the photos.
To provide a sense of scale, Sasquatch Omega placed his own tracks nearby. Wearing size 14 boots, he noted that while his footprints were similar in length, they were much narrower. More strikingly, his own steps left a well-defined arch, something entirely absent in the mysterious tracks. These prints were wider and flatter, consistent with what other researchers have described in alleged Sasquatch footprints. The harsh sunlight reflecting off the snow made it difficult to capture the full clarity of the tracks on video, but the differences were still apparent.
We got a couple of tracks crossing each other. I made my own tracks nearby, and my feet are much narrower.
Later in his analysis, Sasquatch Omega pointed out how the tracks he discovered had to have been made within the last 36 hours, given the recent snowfall and the quick melting that was already taking place. Again, comparing them to his own size 14 boot prints, he highlighted the lack of an arch and the distinct difference in foot shape. These factors suggested that whatever made those tracks wasn't human.
Sure appears that there are toes in there, about the same size. Again, I got a size 14. Notice how I have a much more defined arch in my shoe as opposed to this track here.
According to Sasquatch Omega, this trackway may be among the most valuable evidence he's ever come across. Not only does it demonstrate the presence of a large bipedal creature in the area, but it also supports the theory that Sasquatch are the ones responsible for building complex tree structures found throughout the wilderness. For him, this was a groundbreaking discovery, one that offered a significant piece of the puzzle in the search for Bigfoot. The Rocky Mountain Sasquatch Organization has documented a chilling encounter involving a group of bow hunters deep in the wilderness of the Bloody Bucket region. According to the eyewitness, he was hunting when he spotted several large, upright figures moving along the edge of a beaver pond. The hunter estimated he was about 75 to 100 yards away when he noticed the figures walking through scrub aspen before disappearing into a north-facing timbered slope. At first, he struggled to comprehend what he was seeing, but as they moved, their sheer size became evident. The tallest Bigfoot, barely obscured by the scrub aspen, was enormous, standing well above the hunter's 6-foot frame. A sense of unease crept in. Realizing the magnitude of what he had just witnessed, he considered checking for tracks in the mud near the pond. However, the more he thought about how tall and massive these creatures were, the more his instincts urged him to retreat. Overwhelmed with a feeling of vulnerability, he ultimately chose to move in the opposite direction and leave the area.
Welcome to the Bloody Bucket. We're going to walk around the Bloody Bucket and take a look for any signs of Bigfoot or Bigfoot evidence.
Investigators later interviewed the hunter and found him to be a credible witness, a seasoned outdoorsman who was deeply familiar with the region. He had hunted in the Bloody Bucket area for years and had continued to do so even after the sighting. However, despite returning to locations near the beaver pond, he never felt comfortable stepping back into the exact spot where he had seen the figures. Eventually, he moved to another state and never returned to the area.
I was about 75 to 100 yards away from them. They walked around the edge of the beaver pond, through some scrub, aspen, and into the timber on the north-facing slope.
One of the most perplexing details of his account is that he never saw the creature's facial features. They appeared hairless, yet they never turned to acknowledge his presence. It was as if they didn't see him at all. They were already moving away when he spotted them, vanishing into the dense cover beyond the pond. Another intriguing detail was the sound of their movement. Despite their massive size, the Bigfoots were making more noise walking than he was. The largest of the group took the lead, moving through the forest with deliberate but heavy steps.
I have interviewed the witness and found him to be believable, an experienced outdoorsman and hunter and familiar with the area. He had been hunting there many times before and many times after.
The Rocky Mountain Sasquatch Organization has spent considerable time exploring this mysterious region, hoping to uncover more evidence of Sasquatch activity. While camping in the Whiskey Flat area, researchers reported an unusual and unexplained phenomenon.
Although he found himself hunting within several hundred yards of a beaver pond on different occasions after the sighting, he never felt comfortable returning to the exact location.
Early one morning, just as the sun was rising, they were startled by a series of loud rock clacks, a possible form of Sasquatch communication. What made this even more eerie was that the clacking seemed to be a response to a distant coyote howl. The sound continued for a full 30 minutes, echoing through the valley.
He now lives in a different state. The witness never got a good description of their faces, other than they were hairless, and he felt like the group didn't see him.
Curious to investigate, one of the researchers unzipped the tent, but the moment the zipper sound broke the silence, the rock clacking stopped abruptly. Sensing something unusual, he climbed a small hill behind their camp to get a better view, but whatever was responsible for the clacking had vanished.
Because of the long history of Bigfoot sighting reports coming out of the Bloody Bucket area, and with witnesses seeing what appears to be.
Later that night, the team found themselves alone in the Bloody Bucket wilderness. With no other campers or hunters in sight, an eerie realization set in. They may have just heard Bigfoot vocalizations. The thought of an active Sasquatch presence had them prepared for an eventful night, but strangely, the rest of the night remained silent.
Family unit, we at RMSO spend a lot of time in the area hiking and camping. One time, camping back on Whiskey Flat.
The vocalizations never returned, leaving them with only speculation and unanswered questions. The Bloody Bucket region continues to be a hotspot for Bigfoot activity, with hunters, hikers, and researchers reporting similar encounters over the years. Could this area be home to an undiscovered population of Sasquatch, or is there another explanation? What do you think? Did these bow hunters stumble upon a family of Bigfoots, or is there a more logical explanation? Let us know in the comments.
All the way up past the Bloody Bucket and not finding another soul, it started to sink in that we may have heard some Bigfoot vocalizations.
World Bigfoot Central is a YouTube channel famous for sharing up-to-date news and stories about Bigfoot, strange creatures, the paranormal, and even hidden science and conspiracies. In August 2024, Duke and Johnny Charlo revisit Mount Sentinel and Coloma, places where they've had serious Bigfoot encounters before. During their trips on August 19th, 22nd, and 25th, they search old hotspots for signs of activity. They find impressive tracks measuring 12, 15, 19, and even 22 inches. The area also has old structures, including a 25-foot arch and a teepee where they once filmed a 12-foot-tall Bigfoot called Mr. Big. They're back now to see if the Sasquatch have returned.
So anyway, there used to be a Sasquatch hanging around in this area. We found structures and tracks.
On their way up Mount Sentinel, Duke explains how this area used to be full of stick structures and tracks until people found his videos and came up to cut things down. Now he's back, scanning for new signs. As he rests on the ridge, he lays out his gear, a camera, a tape measure, and even a Bigfoot field guide. Then he starts searching the ridge top, looking for clues. Off in the distance, he spots areas where he believes the Sasquatch might still be. Watch closely. The scenery is rugged and remote. Thick forest fire smoke hangs in the air as Duke climbs a steep slope, preparing to investigate. He reminds viewers that having basic tools like a tape measure is crucial when searching for Bigfoot evidence. Not long after, he stumbles upon a hidden structure, possibly built by the creatures. Unlike before, this one isn't visible from the old access road. making it less likely humans found and destroyed it. He wonders, could Bigfoot have returned and rebuilt? Look carefully at the area he's exploring. Later, he reads a chilling story from Bigfoot Michigan Rob's book. It tells of a Wyoming biologist in 1972 who survived a terrifying Bigfoot encounter. The creature stalks his tent, throws pine cones at him, and even swats his shelter flat with a hairy, human-like hand. Duke reflects on a similar experience from his childhood.
Like 3 or 4 times it threw something at me, and a couple times I saw what it was. The last 3, time number 3 and not time number 4, they were acorns.
When something threw acorns at him in a pine forest, acorns that shouldn't have even been there. Strange happenings like this are often reported in Bigfoot territory. Pay attention to these patterns. Returning to the ridge, Duke spots a possible structure between 2 large trees. He guides the viewers toward it for a closer look. This spot was once loaded with stick formations and evidence of Sasquatch. He then heads to another area where they left apples as bait. From a distance, he can see the apples are untouched. Something odd catches his eye. An old tree stump that was there earlier is now gone.
Thunderstorm rolling in, being on an exposed ridge line. This isn't a good place to be. So I guess I'm not going to be able to do any more filming today.
As thunder rumbles in the distance, he decides to pack up before the storm hits. These moments capture the eerie feeling of the place. Later in the week, Duke and Johnny head back to Coloma. Johnny takes point searching the gully basin while Duke follows along the old roadbed. They're trying to find the exact spot where Johnny once caught something peeking at him between 2 trees.
Again, about the same size. Mr. 15-inch track here, running up and down the hillside.
As they search, Johnny spots a fresh 15-inch track. Duke confirms it by measuring it on camera. Johnny notes that once you know what to look for, finding tracks becomes easier. The team finds several more deep impressions, solid evidence that something heavy is moving through this area. Watch for the footprint details as they measure. Western NY Sasquatch Research is a YouTube channel dedicated to unraveling the mysteries hidden deep within the forests of Western New York. A brother and sister duo lead this mission with a no-nonsense approach, determined to find the truth behind Sasquatch and other cryptids that may roam the land. Their investigations take them to rural areas, nature preserves, and Native American reservations, where they search for clues that might prove the existence of these elusive beings. Unlike others, they refuse to waste time on misinformation, instead sharing only what they genuinely uncover. Their findings suggest that these creatures are not only real, but may be more intelligent and organized than most believe. The latest journey brings them to a remote mountain as a storm rolls in. The investigator is so focused on navigating the terrain that they don't immediately realize they've lost their way. Without a functioning GPS, they rely on natural landmarks to find their way back. As the sky darkens, the sense of being watched intensifies. Strange shapes emerge from the shadows, figures that seem to be moving between the trees. The camera picks up what appears to be a Sasquatch walking, and another figure peeking from behind a tree. If it's a juvenile, it makes sense that the larger one would track every move, ensuring the safety of its young. More dark shapes shift in the background, almost blending into the thick forest. The investigator starts to recognize the distinct voices among the sounds, almost as if they are different individuals communicating. This isn't just random noise, it's something intelligent observing, responding, and waiting. Watch closely as these figures subtly move through the trees, barely visible but undeniably present. As the search continues, the feeling of being watched becomes overwhelming. The investigator acknowledges the presence of something unseen, speaking into the forest, not with fear, but with curiosity and respect. They leave small gifts, hoping to establish trust. A few pieces of fruit, nuts, and a mix of snacks placed carefully on a log. This isn't the first time they've done this, and the results are always unpredictable. Sometimes the offerings disappear without a trace. Other times they're moved or rearranged, almost as if something has taken them but left a subtle message behind. The atmosphere grows heavy with an unspoken energy. There are noises, faint and distant, but real. Footsteps? Maybe. A low hum vibrates through the air, unnatural and unexplainable. Then, something in the distance moves, too far to identify but impossible to ignore. The forest holds its secrets tightly, but the investigator is determined to find the truth. Watch as the moment unfolds, an eerie encounter with something just beyond reach. A fresh tree break comes into view, one that appears unnatural. These signs are scattered throughout Sasquatch hotspots, often thought to be territorial markers or a form of communication. This particular break looks older, but it's still significant. The investigator takes a moment to examine it, questioning whether it was done recently or if time has worn it down. These beings seem to manipulate the environment to their advantage, shaping their surroundings in ways that aren't always immediately obvious. As the investigator stands in the quiet, an unsettling hum cuts through the air again. It's low, almost mechanical, yet it blends with the natural sounds of the woods. The question lingers, what is making that noise? Is it something biological? Or could it be connected to something else entirely? The feeling of unseen eyes watching remains, creating an eerie tension that refuses to fade. Something is out there, and it's aware of the presence of an outsider. Watch as the investigator processes these strange occurrences, trying to make sense of the unexplainable. Western Bigfoot Exploration is a YouTube channel dedicated to uncovering the mysteries of Bigfoot in the rugged and remote landscapes of the western United States. Jonathan, an experienced hiker and backpacker, ventures deep into the wilderness, far beyond where most have dared to go, in search of evidence. With each journey, he dives into the history of the land, explores the legends surrounding the creature, and brings his audience along for the adventure.
When they were making the logging roads in, and that's when Tom Slick found this camp on the map.
For some, the belief in Bigfoot is built on thousands of eyewitness accounts. Others approach it scientifically, examining footprints, vocalizations, and patterns of reported sightings. And then there are those who don't see it as a belief at all. It's a fact, something they know is real because they've seen it with their own eyes. In Northern California, one location has become synonymous with these encounters: Bluff Creek.
Jerry Crew's finding down there, and it wasn't but a couple of miles up creek where they had the fuel barrels stashed that Jerry Crew found the fuel barrels thrown into the creek too.
In the late 1950s and early 70s, logging crews working deep in the forests of Six Rivers National Forest returned to town with unsettling stories. Massive footprints appeared overnight. Heavy machinery was inexplicably overturned. Large humanoid figures lurked in the trees. In 1958, a road construction worker named Jerry Crew discovered enormous footprints in the dirt. His Hoopa native co-workers recognized them instantly, claiming they belonged to a giant that had always lived in these lands. Crew made a plaster cast of one of the tracks, and when a Eureka journalist published the story, it gained national attention. The legend of Bigfoot had taken root. On the afternoon of October 20th, 1967, everything changed. As they rode along the creek, a massive root system blocked their view of the path ahead. Rounding the bend, they spotted something moving. Patterson's horse reared, throwing him off, but in the chaos he managed to grab his camera. Sprinting forward, he fumbled with the device, but kept filming. The figure moved methodically through the clearing, its muscular frame unmistakable. The footage that followed would become the most famous Bigfoot evidence in history. Watch closely. Something worth seeing happens here.
Tree with a large root system impeding their view of what lie ahead. And when they turned the corner,
the daylight faded fast. Knowing the storm was closing in, Patterson and Gimlin documented the footprints left behind. Patterson swapped out the film under a tarp, still unsure whether he had captured anything of value. The rain hit hard the next morning, turning the route back into a treacherous mess of mud and washed-out trails. Gimlin skillfully navigated their truck out of the forest, determined to get the film developed. Once back, Patterson wasted no time. He met with Al Hodgson, a Bigfoot researcher and store owner in Willow Creek, urging him to visit the site. He insisted the footprints couldn't have been faked. There was only one set, no disturbances, suggesting a hoax. Soon, experts arrived, including journalist John Green and taxidermist Bob Titmus. Their conclusion? The prints were legitimate. More than 50 years have passed, but Bluff Creek remains a place of mystery.
Bigfoot stuff like that seems to happen all the time. Why don't you film it? Well, because my camera was, well, how was your camera low?
Jonathan sets out to retrace the footsteps of Patterson and Gimlin, venturing into the same dense forests. Navigating the thick brush, he quickly realizes how challenging the terrain is. The steep embankments, tangled vegetation, and winding creeks create a near impenetrable environment. Watch this carefully. This moment is telling.
Here goes that famous root ball. So this is what I'm guessing. We went down this way. I believe this is the way I already said.
As night falls, exhaustion sets in. Sitting by the fire, Jonathan watches the surrounding darkness, hoping his night vision camera will capture something moving in the trees. Then, a sound breaks the silence.
Did you hear that?
A long, resonant call echoes down the canyon. It's deep, powerful, unlike any known animal in the area. Listen closely. This could be important.
Did you hear that?
Just when it seems the night couldn't get any stranger, lights appear in the distance. At first, they resemble distant car lights flickering through the trees. Then, figures approach the camp. Unexpected visitors.
There's someone squatching on Onion Lake Road. We just heard a Sasquatch.
I see lights coming from over there. They look like car lights.
Rowdy Kelly of the Bluff Creek Project and his friend Greg have arrived, bringing new energy to the search. As morning comes and the group packs up camp, something strange is recorded on camera. A 7.5-minute clip shows everyone standing within a few steps of each other. Then, less than a minute later, an anomaly appears. Something unexplainable. Review this footage carefully. Bluff Creek still holds its secrets. The footprints, the film, the stories. They all point to something existing in these woods, something that continues to evade discovery. Whether it's an undiscovered species, a lost primate, or something beyond explanation, one thing is certain. The search is far from over. Could something still be moving through these forests, hidden just beyond the firelight? Blue Line Bigfoot is a YouTube channel known for its Bigfoot encounters, often exploring remote regions of New York. In this episode, Jake and Adam travel to the rugged wilderness of the Adirondack Park to meet with Barb Hotez, a local resident with a chilling story. What begins as a casual interview soon turns into one of their most intense investigations yet. Barb claims she came face to face with something unexplainable, something massive, right in her own backyard. This might be the start of something bigger in the Bigfoot community.
Jake and I, we heard through the grapevine that you had a personal experience here with a creature.
Bigfoot.
It all happened back in 2012, in that strange time between winter and spring. Barb recalls it was raining as dusk settled over her home. She was watching TV when her dog, Bo, suddenly started barking. At first, she thought he needed to go out, but Bo's reaction was different this time. He stood frozen on the deck, his hair bristling, growling at something in the distance. That's when Barb saw it. A huge figure stood by the tree line. At first glance, she thought it was a man, but as she got a better look, the truth became more terrifying. It wasn't a man at all. It was something bigger, covered in long, matted hair, and it carried a stench that hit her hard, a foul, rotting garbage smell. When she fired her gun twice in the air, the creature turned and disappeared into the woods in just a few steps.
Bigfoot, you're just gonna come out and say it.
Bigfoot.
Bigfoot.
I'm telling you, it was Bigfoot.
Bigfoot, okay.
I think it's 2012. It's either April or March, I can't remember.
Since that night, things around Barb's property have never been the same. The woods that once felt peaceful now feel empty and tense. Deer that used to roam freely vanished. She hasn't seen a single one in over 5 months. Every morning, food she leaves out is mysteriously gone. And on calm nights, eerie sounds echo through the trees, sounds that she can't explain. They're loud, unnatural, and enough to keep her indoors after dark. Barb admits she now locks her doors and avoids areas she once loved, like the berry patches down the trail.
I was watching TV. Bo started barking. I thought he had to go out. I came to the back door, let him out.
She's lived in the mountains for 14 years without fear, but this encounter changed everything. See what we mean. When describing the creature, Barb is clear. Its hair was long, almost ape-like, but matted, maybe from the rain. She couldn't make out its face well, but its size and smell made it clear it wasn't any animal she'd seen before. She's hunted bear before, and this was no bear. The foul odor left when the creature did, confirming to her that it came from the beast itself. Even now, Barb feels uneasy about what's down in those woods. She's sure it's still out there. Watch the evidence.
Describe the hair on him at all?
Long.
Long.
Long hair. It wasn't short. It was long hair.
Despite the fear, Barb keeps a camera close, just in case. If she ever sees it again, she plans to get proof, and then run. But it's clear the encounter has changed her life. What was once her safe haven now feels like something she needs to protect herself from. It's not just the physical presence of the creature that lingers, but the fear of the unknown. She hasn't picked berries since. She won't wander her property like she used to.
He just really scared me. As I said, I couldn't get a good look at his face. He did look at me, but as I said, it was starting to get dark. But he had hair on his face.
And for someone who once called Long Island home, where people were the real danger, that says a lot. See the shift in her life. Jake and Adam end this visit convinced Barb is telling the truth. The emotion in her voice, the details in her story, everything lines up. Something unknown might still roam the Adirondack. A search for Sasquatch in the Rocky Mountains and Pacific Northwest. Bigfoot is on the verge of discovery. Subscribe for weekly updates of Bigfoot sightings across these regions. In the Yukon, a chilling Bigfoot encounter was reported by Ernie McGregor, a 30-year resident and prospector.
Ernie McGregor, a 30-year resident of the Yukon, liked to prospect in gold mine with his family.
In 2009, Ernie and his wife Kim were on a gold prospecting trip in a remote area northeast of Haines Junction.
On one prospecting trip with his wife in 2009 in a remote area northeast of Haines Junction,
they parked their truck and ATVs and settled into their tent for the night.
On the night of the encounter around 10 p.m., they retired to the tent for the night.
Around 10 p.m., they retired for the night. Being summertime, it remained light until late. Around 1 a.m., they were awakened by a loud hooting sound followed by a deep, resonant bellow. The noise was alarmingly close, only about 100 yards from their tent. These eerie vocalizations continued for hours, coming from 2 different directions, suggesting they were surrounded. Suddenly, the sounds grew closer.
The sound was alarmingly close, around 100 yards from their tent. This lasted off and on for several hours.
And they began to hear popping or clapping noises. Fearful, Ernie exited the tent and fired warning shots into the darkness. The noises stopped, and whatever was out there retreated.
Ernie got out of the tent and fired some warning shots trying to scare them away, and it did.
Convinced they had been terrorized by a pair of Sasquatch, the couple hiked back to their truck the next day. Along the way, Ernie saw a large black figure moving from tree to tree, seemingly keeping pace with them. In 2015, Ernie returned to the area alone for a multi-day prospecting trip. When he returned to camp one evening, he found it completely destroyed. A powerful stench filled the air, a mix of wet dog, rotting flesh, and something unrecognizable.
In 2015, when Ernie was out prospecting alone for 4 or 5 days, on one of the days when he returned to camp, it was completely destroyed.
Shaken, Ernie quickly packed his belongings onto his ATV and left. These encounters permanently changed his life. He no longer enjoys camping as he once did, and is hyper-aware of every sound in the wilderness. The creature that stared him down looked anything but friendly.
These 2 encounters have permanently changed Ernie's life. He doesn't enjoy camping like he used to, and when he's out there, he wakes up.
Russell shares a terrifying encounter from 1992, when his parents lived in a remote cottage a mile outside Mayo, Yukon.
In 1992, my father and mother were very poor. We lived in a cottage a mile away from the small city of Mayo in Yukon, Canada.
His father worked tirelessly to save money, so they could eventually move to a better place. Their only protection was their loyal German shepherd, Barney. One fateful night,
it was evening and was snowstorming. My mom was in the living room with me sleeping in her arms.
A monstrous roar echoed outside their home, waking Russell's mother and making baby Russell cry. His mother asked his father what it was, but he remained silent, grabbing a shotgun and instructing her to hide in the wardrobe with their baby. Through the window, he saw a massive creature staring directly at their home. But there wasn't just one. 2 more figures lurked nearby, watching. One was jet black like the first, but the third was even larger, determined to confront whatever was outside.
Human-like tracks. He measured one to be 53 to 55 centimeters.
Russell's father stepped out, shotgun in hand. He discovered 3 distinct sets of human-like tracks, one measuring 53 to 55 centimeters, another 60 centimeters, and the largest over 70 centimeters. Following the tracks in the direction Barney had run, he made a devastating discovery. Barney's lifeless body, his head crushed. Judging by the damage, these creatures had easily overpowered the large German shepherd. Heartbroken, Russell's father buried Barney in their yard.
2 weeks after this event, my dad got enough money for us to move to the city of Whitehorse and buy a house there. We moved and lived there to this day.
2 weeks later, he had saved enough money to move his family to Whitehorse, far from the terror they had endured. Later, Russell's father reflected on what he had seen. The largest creature, covered in white fur, appeared old and slightly hunchbacked. He believed it might have been injured or suffering from age-related issues, as its tracks suggested it had been dragging one of its legs.
The big one may have had an old age-related physical disability or was injured and so was dragging its leg.
The Rocky Mountain Sasquatch Organization, RMSO, speculated that this could have been a sign of an aging Sasquatch with physical limitations. Regardless, the encounter left a permanent mark on Russell's family. These Yukon Bigfoot encounters continue to fuel speculation and belief in the existence of Sasquatch. Have you ever had a Bigfoot encounter or know someone who has? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Keep watching. We're going to keep on squatching.
So, could Bigfoot really be out there? These encounters make it hard to deny something is watching from the shadows. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you believe in Bigfoot, or is it all just a myth? And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss what's hiding out there.